Yeah, you did have sex.
And they've even summarised our financial management. So we maintain an average rate increase of just 3.5% for residential properties. And we had $41 million in capital works program focusing on service improvements and infrastructure upgrades. And that's all it had. And I think it was slightly different to our report, but there was some highlighted ones there, but the airport passenger growth. So airport passenger growth has gone up a lot. We've got very nearly 700,000 people going through our airport every year. So I think it's enough of a summary about what we did over the 23-24 year. So what I need now is I need someone to move that as a community we adopt the annual report. Councillor Johansson. Oh no, just an elector. Brendan Johansson. Move someone like to second our annual report. Sarah Roots, an elector. All right, now is anyone against the contents in our annual report? Al? No? Brendan, would you like to speak for it, or have I said enough?
I think you've said enough.
Sarah, what about yourself? Would you like to speak for it?
I just wanted to highlight the increase in engagement. I believe, I can't find it, I think it's increasing 128% response from our community with our survey. I think that's really important. I'd like to see a continuance on building upon engaging with the community. So it's really encouraging to see everyone here tonight. Thank you all for coming. But yeah, our survey response, I think, was wonderful, increasing that much.
Yes, excellent. All right, well, if there's no other, no one else would like to speak for it, well, I'll say that's moved. So we have adopted our annual report, and then we'll move on to 4, which is general business. And this is where I will call.
So, Mayor,
yes.
just check with the governance officer. Do we need to have a show of hands for an electors meeting, or is it okay to assume that's passed
I think
unanimously?
that's passed unanimously.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's no one, well, no one. I gave the opportunity for someone to speak against it.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Everyone's happy. I guess then we move to general business. And this is where the public get to come up and make statements and or ask questions. But we do have some written questions that were provided by Gary Slee, of which we have our response. Are we to put that up?
You've got the statement on the screen.
You got the statement on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
So, Mr. Mayor, maybe just for the public, we received an email from Mr. Slee, who provided us with a bit of a statement around the city's vision to be the most livable regional city, and then has provided some written questions in writing. Because those questions are in writing, they jump forward in the agenda, so we'll deal with those first. We've got each question, and I think because we've had them on notice, we can provide a response in the meeting. So,
yep.
So the question's up there, I can see. Yeah.
All right. So, question 1: Has the council clearly defined what most livable means? And the answer is no, we haven't. However, I would note that we have our strategic community plan, which outlines our actions over a 10-year period. And to be undertaken, this is our vision is an aspirational vision. So, and in actual fact, through our strategic community plan that we're doing, we're actually looking to adopt a new vision because we've got a new 10-year strategic community plan, which involves a community infrastructure plan, and the SCP and the vision from the previous council and the previous sort of decade has sort of been completed. So with a new council, a new strategic community plan, a new community infrastructure plan, we thought it appropriate to look at creating a new vision for what this city and this council wants to achieve. And then question 2 was, what is the council's definition of what most livable means? And obviously the previous question, the answer is, well, no, we don't We haven't got a definition for what most livable means. It's an aspirational vision which enables and fosters innovative strategic thinking to deal with constraints towards cost of living, infrastructure, culture and environment. Additionally, we lobby or partner with state and federal governments and industry in the areas of healthcare, education, security, economic diversity, and more importantly, recently it's been affordable housing. And then question 3 is, will the council formally direct the Chief Executive Officer to prepare and execute an appropriate strategic vision plan and outward-looking regional strategy? Now, the answer is we don't have, well, no, we haven't directed the CEO for a strategic vision plan, but what we have done, and it's only happened recently, is as of the last week, is we are as a city going through the City of Karratha's 2050 plan, which will be an outward-looking strategic vision document, of which we started work on that last week. We had a strategic catch-up in March, a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, where the council got together and we spoke about starting to deliver our 2050 vision, a little bit like back in the day when the Pilbara Cities vision, the two Pilbara Cities in Karratha, Pilbara Cities in Port Hedland, when that plan came together. That plan actually helped to deliver what you see here today. So all that hard work that was done envisioning what Karratha is going to look like until 2030, we actually completed that vision in 2020. So we were 10 years ahead of what the vision was from when the Pilbara Cities program started in Karratha. And that's why we thought we need to do this again, because we are ready. So back then there was $1 billion dropped on the table from the then Liberal National government that delivered what you see in Karratha. And what we're going to be asking the state government for is saying, well, we're ready for that again. We're ready for another $1 billion, or inflation. We're ready for $2 billion. Right, and here's our plan for 2050. And this is what we want Karratha to look like and feel like in that vision. So we have started that, and we'll be looking to include the broader community in that 2050 vision as well, to make sure that it's not just us around the table that are developing that vision, but it's the community aspiring to that vision as well. Question 4, when will the council formally issue a directive? It's been done. The directive has been given. We are working on that 2050 plan, and our strategic community plan is happening as we speak. Actually, in the agenda tonight, we've got our draft that's going out to the community. Question 5. Has the council any questions it wishes to ask me? Not at this stage, Gary, but
Thanks.
But I'm happy to. I tell you what, I'm happy to catch up for a coffee. I think any of us are. If you've got any great ideas or suggestions for us, I'd love to catch up.
Can I ask one question?
Well, actually,
We'll go through statements and questions. Yeah.
well, no, we can, because Gary's the one that's put in the written request, and then we have calls for questions. So yes, Gary, what is your question?
I assume you're going to give a detailed response to my answer in writing.
Oh, yes, we will. Did you get that, CEO? Yes, we will provide a response in writing.
And perhaps through the Mayor, just to mention to everyone, the questions that get asked at this meeting, even we will provide a written response that's part of the minutes, so will actually be part of the formal record. You don't have to be sitting in the room to hear the answer. You'll be able to see that documented, and if we can't answer a question tonight, then we will bring that to a future council meeting, and we'll make sure that there's a written response to the question at a different date, at the earliest possible time that we can.
Okay. Yes, Councillor.
Let's clarify. So we will respond directly to Gary as well as provide an answer in the minute.
No, it will be, it's been a question submitted into the electors meeting. It'll be in the minutes of the electors meeting. I won't be responding separately. It's in this process.
Okay. So next on the agenda is a call for statements. So if anyone in the public has a statement to make, there's a maximum of 2 minutes. If you'd like to let yourself know. Simon? Proceed to the lectern, mate.
And everyone who makes a statement or question formally, if you can just mention your name and perhaps your suburb, I think is probably the best.
My name's Simon Blatchford. I'm a property owner in Bainton. As a member of the general public, I'd like to request the council recognise that the Consink Bay and associated four-wheel drive tracks, commonly known as the jump up, have been closed for 2 years with no sign of any progress having been made from the access road. Number two, that note that construction of the access road was expected to start in late 2024, but to date there's been no sign of progress other than the filling in of the well-known 4x4 jump up. Other than that, there's been no indicated updated timeline for completion. Number three, that the council should formally request the Murray Aboriginal Corporation, Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attractions immediately reopen the public access to Consink Bay via the existing route or via an alternative interim solution. Background and justification for this request is that the premature closure of the access roads to Consink Bay was unnecessarily restricted access to popular recreational areas with no signs of progress on the new and proposed road. The community has been waiting for years, yet there's been no visible movement or clear explanation provided to explain the delays. Other national parks, such as Cape Range in Exmouth, successfully managed public access alongside conservation efforts and also the construction efforts, which demonstrates an interim solution if possible. As a frequent user of the area prior to being locked up, I observed that the beaches and access tracks there were mostly adhered to, with the only exception to that would be that the chipping track, which went up and over the hill, where people did veer off the given track. Also, I'd like to note that those who have accessed the area due to its challenges were those who cleaned up after themselves and respected the pristine beaches. With MAC having made the access easier now, it's likely to be detrimental to the cleanliness of the area. Temporary reopening would allow locals and visitors who responsibly access the area to do so whilst MAC and DBCA finalise long-term infrastructure plans. Another similar example of this closure is Gregory's Gorge in Ashburton Shire. This area was officially locked up 12 years ago, February of 2013, and there's absolutely no sign of any development having occurred despite funding having been provided. Signs of the access gate have stated for at least the past 5 years that they're in the final stages of the management plans, but it still remains closed and no indication as to when it will reopen to the public. The only development visible has been more bollards each side of the existing gate, which has been welded shut. Will the people of the city of Karratha have to wait this long or longer, since that still hasn't happened either, to access the jump up as a popular destination on the weekends as well? Thank you.
So 12 years. I had someone yesterday actually asked me exact those two questions.
Yeah.
Jump up and Gregory's. So as that's a statement, I guess we'll just take that as yeah, we've got a copy.
Yeah, that would be great, Simon. We could read that. We are, perhaps if I could just provide a very brief response, and I'm happy to put some officers' comments about that. The city's very aware of the fact that this is a really popular part of the recreation environment for our community. It's not land that we have any control over. So as Simon indicated, it's something where we are actually working with the parties. We are encouraging them and providing different options. And the city is also committed to building part of the road infrastructure into that site, with the view that it will actually be part of opening it up for sort of a national park and national and public recreation purposes. But ultimately, that's the part of land that you're talking about is owned by others, and they need to go through their own process in terms of when that is opened, and that's outside our control, but we're certainly aware of it, and we'll continue to lobby on behalf of the community around making that amenity available.
Yeah. And I do know I can add as well that Murajuga I think their efforts or their focus recently has been more on World Heritage listing for that park. And I think they should hear in the middle of this year whether the Murujuga National Park becomes World Heritage listed. That's probably where a lot of their focus and efforts have been of late. So we'll find out more in the coming months. Okay, are there any other questions anyone would like to make? Step forward.
Hello, my name is Robert Cram and live in Nickel. So, for tonight, just have a motion for consideration. Submit this motion for consideration at the annual electors meeting. First thing, that the council approve the waiving of facility hire fees for eligible non-for-profit organisations, sole traders and small businesses that host mostly community events, benefiting residents socially, culturally or economically. Many small events struggle to break even due to the costs associated with venue hires, which often leads to events being scaled back, postponed, or never even taking place. By removing this financial barrier, we can encourage more community-driven activities that contribute to the vibrancy and well-being of our region. Additionally, I ask that the council implement a simple application process ensuring small organisations or sole traders can easily access this waiver without excessive administration burden. To maximise community benefit, I further propose the city actively promote this initiative through its communication channels, raising awareness and encouraging greater participation in local events. Bit of background, the City of Karratha has a strong and diverse community with many local groups, sole traders and small businesses working hard to provide events and activities that enrich our region. However, facility hire costs often pose a significant challenge, making it difficult for organisers to develop valuable programs for the community. By supporting this motion, the council can help sustain and grow local events and contribute to our social, cultural and economic well-being. I urge council to remove these financial barriers and invest in a thriving community where more events can succeed.
Thank you, Robert. Now we will get to the movement of motions. So what I'm wondering is if we can get a copy of Robert's motion. I'm wondering as well if we can, I don't know, if we can quickly scan it and get it up on the screen for when we need it. So because then when,
if anyone needs that. So
because then what we'll do is obviously do that motion and then everyone can speak to either support you or not.
Support you or not. We all support you, but so Robert, can I just ask a clarifying question? So your motion is around for certain organisations and individuals a waiving of free fees, and you mentioned community facilities. What have you got specifically in mind? Is this about
different spaces and ovals? Like, that's the one point that's picked up, and other small businesses we know of that try to run community events for free, and sometimes just minimal cost, just trying to cover costs. Not actually putting a charge out to make any money from it, just supporting well-being, physical, mental wealth, well-being, and just trying to get some access to these places because the costs that come at them, quite expensive with hiring an oval that is already sort of covered in rates and everything else that we all pay. Really looking for some help. So
things like ovals and community halls and things like that, so that you can run an event that is for the community. Okay. So look, what we'll do is I'll hand back to the mayor to continue with the agenda, but we'll pull together something which might, based on what you've got, and then we'll bring that back at the meeting to put it to the group, and the group can decide whether or not they want to vote to accept it.
Thank you.
Yep, hang on, Pam. Got you any more statements from the public? Or could we get the questions after statements?
Yep.
Gary.
Gary Fitzgerald, LIA. I'd like to know for the financial year 22-23 what the total salaries were paid out and the number of staff you employed. And I'd like to know what the increase is in 24 coming up to 25 financial year of the same figures.
So salaries and numbers of
Staff,
full-time or total?
staff in general. And what's your percentage based on wages per turnover. Right. Thank you.
That was a question. Has anyone got any statements? They want to make? Yes,
Statements or motions?
statements.
Statements and a motion.
I think it's good to talk to a motion you've got. And we can do the same things we do with Robert, right? Is then we take that and deal with it later.
My name is Natasha Johnson. I live in Bulgara. Tonight I'm here as my capacity as a City of Karratha ratepayer and an owner-operator of 2 small to medium businesses. Recently, our landscaping business has been caught up in a non-payment issue through a head contractor doing tendered works for the City of Karratha. The completion of these works was October last year, and to this date, we are still waiting payment. Whilst we appreciate the City of Karratha has worked through these issues, it has had a major impact on our business cash flow and operations. Fortunately, we were in a good position before this happened, but it has got to the point that we are now just hanging in there. I feel that this should not happen to subcontractors doing any sort of government work. So I put forward the following motion. Ensuring payment protections for local subcontractors in major council tenders. The motion is that the council, 1, implements a payment protection framework for local subcontractors engaged in projects awarded to large companies through City of Karratha tenders. This framework should include a requirement for principal contractors to provide proof of payment to subcontractors before receiving their final payments from the city. A structured reporting system where subcontractors can flag non-payment issues directly with the city. Consideration of financial penalties or withholding of funds for companies that fail to meet subcontractor payment obligations. 2, reviews contractual obligations in city tenders to strengthen protections for local business by including clauses that mandate timely payments to subcontractors, prioritising companies with a demonstrated history of fair subcontractor treatment in the tender evaluation process, establishing clear escalation procedures for payment disputes involving local subcontractors. And 3, commits to transparent communication with affected subcontractors by providing regular updates on payment concerns raised by local business and ensuring that any issues with outstanding payments are addressed within a reasonable timeframe. Local businesses play a critical role in delivering city projects, yet there has been instances where subcontractors have faced delayed or non-payment issues when working under larger out-of-town companies awarded city tenders. This motion seeks to introduce greater accountability and transparency in payment processes, ensuring that local contractors are protected and fairly compensated for their work. Council has a responsibility to support local businesses, and by introducing these safeguards, we can strengthen trust in the tendering process and prevent financial hardship for local subcontractors. I urge my fellow residents to support this motion in the interest of fairness, accountability and sustainability of our local contracting.
All right, thank you, Natasha. Same thing. If we get a copy of your motion. Okay. Are there any other statements? I think we're saying yes. Oh yeah. I can do the same thing. If you've got a motion, just come up and let us know because we need to give copies to everyone and then proceed with that. So.
My name is Marcia Robbins with Bulgara, and my motion is to request that advocacy for a Royal Commission into the COVID-19 response. Good evening, councillors. I'm here as a resident of the City of Karratha to ask you to revisit the decision on advocating for a Royal Commission into Australia's COVID-19 response. In November 2024, the City conducted a community survey on this issue, and the results showed that a clear majority of residents supported advocacy for a Royal Commission. Given that outcome, I am asking the Council to reaffirm that support and formally advise federal members of Parliament that our community believes and independent and thorough inquiries necessary. Local governments have a history of advocating for royal commissions on issues of national importance. A key example is the Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sexual abuse. Without the initial advocacy of councils, that Royal Commission may never have happened, and its recommendations such as national child safety standards would not have been implemented at the local level. This precedent shows that councils do play a role in pushing for accountability and transparency on issues that affect their communities. This isn't about rehashing old debates, it's about recognising what the community has already told you through the survey. Ignoring the feedback goes against the principles of community engagement and good governance. The city invested in collecting this data and now it should act on it. I respectfully ask the council to, number one, reaffirm the community's support for advocating for a royal commission as demonstrated by the survey results. Number two, write to federal MPs advising them to the community's views and reiterating that the people of Karratha want transparency in the COVID-19 response. Number three, recognise the role of local government advocacy in ensuring national inquiries are held, citing the Royal Commission into child sexual abuse as an example of where council advocacy made a real difference. Number four, acknowledge that councils have historically advocated for royal commissions on major issues and that stepping away from this responsibility would go against both community expectations and past practice. This is about upholding the principles of transparency, accountability and community representation. The people of Karratha have spoken and we're just asking you to follow through. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Marcia. Same thing, if you want to provide that to us, and we'll get the opportunity to speak to it again. Right, anyone else got a statement? Or maybe they'd like to get a motion, they want a statement?
Oh, this is the format which is found.
Yeah, I think so. It seems to be working.
We'll make it work. Thanks. G'day, Tim Abbott of Bulgara. Thanks, Marcia, for your motion. Mine is very much in the same spirit of hers. I've got a couple here. Let me just find this one that I'll start with. And that would be this one. The notice of motion is that the electors of the City of Karratha expressed significant concern regarding the council's handling of community engagement, transparency and adherence to the principles of good governance, in particular relation to point 1, re-establishing and building trust in government. Council engaged an external survey company at the cost of approximately $30,000 to assess community support for advocating for a Royal Commission into Australia's COVID-19 response. Despite clear majority support for advocacy, several councillors ignored or dismissed the survey results. These actions have raised concerns about whether council's conduct is fostering or eroding public trust in government. Point 2, clarification of the city's advocacy priorities. The council must confirm whether public health, particularly in relation to COVID-19, qualifies as an advocacy priority, especially when given survey data indicating strong community support. Point 4 of Mayor Scott's alternate motion, which restricts certain notices of motion. This may conflict with the Local Government Act of 1995, specifically sections 3.1, ensuring good government of the district, section 2.7, council's role in directing and overseeing policies in the best interest of the community, as well as section 2.8, the mayor's duty to speak of and advocate for the district. The council must explain whether advocacy on the matters of significant public interest is in breach of these responsibilities. The council must explain whether restricting advocacy on matters of significant public interest is in breach of these responsibilities of the Local Government Act. Point 3, accountability for disregarding community survey results. Mayor Scott, Councillor Furlong, Gillam, Nunn and Simpson voted in favour of conducting a $30,000 community survey contracted out in November 24 to assess public views on advocating for a Royal Commission. Then, by December, the same councillors disregarded the results by voting against advocacy despite the majority of respondents supporting the action. This raises serious concern about wasteful expenditure, the council's respect for community input, and whether the decision was driven by personal political biases or political relationships and agendas, rather than community representation. Point 4, confidence in the council's interpretation of the Local Government Act 1995. The council has argued that advocating for a Royal Commission into COVID-19 response falls outside its responsibilities. However, the Local Government Act, sections 3.1, 2.7 and 2.8 establishes that local government are responsible for representing the interests of their district, including when those interests intersect with state responsibilities such as public health. The Act further empowers local government to take necessary actions to meet community needs and advocate for higher levels of government where appropriate, as in section 3.18. Given the survey results demonstrating majority community support, the council must provide a clear and legal justification for restricting advocacy efforts on this matter. And so this motion requests that the City of Karratha Council, 1, formally acknowledge community concerns regarding handling of the community survey and the decision that followed. 2, provide a detailed explanation regarding how its actions align with the stated goal of rebuilding trust in government. 3, publicly define and disclose the City's advocacy priorities and confirm whether public health is included. Address, point 4, address potential conflicts between the alternate motion and the Local Government Act of 95 and commit to reviewing any restrictive policies that may undermine the democratic representation. Point 5, justify the decision to ignore the results of the $30,000 spent on a survey and explain how future community engagement efforts will be taken seriously. And point 6, provide clear and legal justification for the position that local government advocacy in this area is outside the scope of its responsibilities under the Local Government Act.
Thank you, Tim. All right, same thing, Tim, if you want to provide that to us, and then we'll get a chance to go through the motions.
And unless anyone has any objections, I've got 2 more minutes.
Well, you're only allowed 2 minutes
for a statement.
Right, so then we might have to just give other people the opportunity and do the motions. Yeah. Oh, yes. Okay. Well, see you online.
Have a question.
Is there any more statements? We'll go to the statements first.
Yeah.
Yes, come forward.
Thanks, Tony.
I propose that our public library.
Hold on, just for the public, we need name and suburb.
Grace and Bulgara.
We might know who you are, Grace.
I propose that our public library should be open 24/7. This would provide extra accessibility, enhance study and research convenience, support residents, increase the population's access to resources, and provide a space for communities to gather at an unlimited range of times. Although rare, a 24/7 library is not a new thing and has been introduced before in multiple places. In New South Wales, Forestville Library became one of the first council libraries to offer 24/7 access to registered members or aged 16 and over. At first, Forestville experimented with the idea and in 2022 implemented a 3-month trial which soon concluded to be successful. When open outside of regular staff area hours, the library can be accessed by members by scanning a valid library card and entering a PIN. The data collected from the trials showed almost 640 people visit the library outside of staff hours, with a total of 7,500 visits. These visits made 21% of the total visitations to the library in total. Sundays were seen to be the busiest day of the week. The community was seen to rapidly increase in population, particularly in the library's area, and the council received extensive good feedback from the community in the following months. A library being open 24/7 can provide numerous benefits to the community. Some of the benefits include accessibility. Not everyone has a flexible schedule. This is especially the case in Karratha, where many citizens work full-time. A 24/7 library would allow people with full work hours, students or those with other time constraints to access library resources at any time regardless of their schedule. Study and research convenience. The libraries are often places of study and research. For students, professionals and others working on projects, having access to a quiet and resource-rich space at any hour is crucial. Late-night study sessions or the need for urgent research can be accommodated without the time restriction of typical operating hours. Support for residents. Some people may be dealing with challenges or have unreliable access to technology or internet outside of the library. A 24/7 library would be an accessible place for people to work, study, or just have a quiet room. Community gathering place. Libraries are more than just a place to check out books. They often serve as a hub for community events, meetings, and services. Extending operating hours means that more people can engage in these events, especially those with irregular schedules. Increased access to technology and resources. Libraries often offer free access to computers, the internet, and printing services. Having these resources available around the clock can support students, study groups, and many others. In conclusion, if our library was open 24/7, our community would greatly benefit from its resources and opportunities, enhancing the livability of Karratha.
Thanks, Grace.
Provide us with a copy of your statement. Thank you. Anyone else for a statement? Come forward. Name and suburb.
Called 5, my name's 8. And like others my age, we would love a water park because in summer it gets way too hot and there aren't many places for kids to cool down, chill out, invite friends and play games. And not everyone has a pool. Our community has been asking for this for a long time. Other towns have water parks, so why don't we? It would bring people together and give kids something healthy to do instead of staying inside all day. Please think about how happy this would make so many kids, adults, and the community too. We just want a place to splash, play, and enjoy our city. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks, Ava. Well done.
Okay, do we have any other members of the public make a statement? Come forward. Your household's been busy.
They learned the process.
That's all right. And all of that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Hope, and I would like to propose a motion to add bus seats at all bus stops that currently lack them. A simple bench or seat would suffice. You might be wondering why we can't just stand while waiting. Well, when preparing for an important event like a job interview, we all appreciate having a place to sit, collect ourselves, and prepare mentally. We simply ask for the same consideration as the other bus stops, especially since many of us are waiting in the hot sun. On particularly warm days, this becomes even more frustrating, especially if we're carrying multiple heavy bags. As students, we carry laptops, books, and other materials to school, and it's not always easy to stand for extended periods of time. In addition, we took it upon ourselves to weed our bus stop, as many of us have allergies and it was full of weeds with seed ready to produce smoke. Additionally, the bus stop in our community The bus stops in our community are not well distributed. For example, on one road there are 4 bus stops closely spaced together, while an 800-metre plus stretch of path/road is without a single stop. One of the bus stops that was damaged in Cyclone Damien was removed, and yet no action has been taken to replace it, forcing students to walk further distances than necessary. I strongly urge you to address these issues now, as they are long overdue. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Hope. So that's a motion you want to put forward? Yes, I'm bothered with this.
Thanks, so.
Hope, what about a bus that actually takes people to work? Hey, really, the public transport system doesn't allow that. Okay, are there any other statements? No, if there's no more statements, we'll go to call for questions. So, anyone got any questions of the council? Kim, please.
Kim.
Name and suburb.
Kim from Bankton. Can I ask 2 questions?
You can ask 2 questions. Up to 2 minutes in total.
Yeah, they're quick questions. One, I would like to know if council can do something about line marking on the roads in the LAA. Vehicles tend to have difficulty in deciding which side of the road they'd like to drive on.
Yeah.
So it would be very nice if the lines could be there so that they could work out where they were going and make the roads a whole lot safer in the LAA. That's my one question.
Thank you.
And 2, I'd like to know, in one of my jobs, I drive around a lot in a school bus around Nickel, and I notice a lot of empty houses that have been empty for a long time. Now, I know we have a housing crisis, and I'm wondering if council is somehow able to talk to the likes of Woodside and Rio and Yarra and all that to see how many houses they own or how many houses they're paying rent on that nobody is living in. Because really it's quite disgusting if they're just sitting there empty when people are desperately looking for housing. Surely there has to be a way that something can be done so that people can rent a house at a reasonable price when it's just sitting there going to waste. They've been renovated, we've watched the renovations happen and then nothing. And it just is such a shame to see them sitting there knowing so many people are looking for somewhere affordable to live.
Thank you, Kim. It's interesting now in Newman, they've got houses that are boarded up, they've got walls on them. And yesterday I was driving down Galbraith and there's a house, Galbraith, there's a house there, Gawthorne, yeah, boarded up. I thought, oh wow. They've just put wood on the windows and said, it's not being in use.
So if I could just maybe answer the question.
Sure.
Sure. Scott, so I'll take the line marking in the LAA on notice because that's not my expertise. I think your point around empty houses is a good one. We've probably looked at, we've done a lot of audits. We've spoken to all of the main owners of houses, and each one of them we've talked to them about what strategies have they got for making houses available. And even in some cases, we've done negotiations to either take those houses off their hands or turn it into service worker accommodation. So I suppose, yes, I think we will continue to advocate for every single house to be made available. And just so you know, those larger organisations like the Woodsides and the Rio Tintos, we actually meet with them on a very regular basis as part of our partnership agreements. And one of the first items on every agenda is what are you doing with your houses? So, you know, and I would say that very often they're meeting us halfway. So there is a lot of good stuff that's happening. I don't know the specific
streets.
Yeah, well, look, yeah, and that might be something we can talk about offline. If you even give me a few examples, what we can do is we can find out who the owners are and sort of see whether or not that's unlocking something that we've missed in our audits of houses. But 100% agree with you.
Any other questions from the public?
Yeah, quick one.
This is your opportunity.
This is
Tim.
So you made mention about how good the turnout is.
Here.
The public.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But I don't know if you can really attribute that to any sort of advertising because I couldn't find it anywhere. So I can only assume it was through word of mouth. So will the council make an effort to advertise this better
and also include like the rules and format around this
Yes.
different meeting.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. And yeah, I do know that we do advertise it to the city's Facebook page, but through the city, I'm not sure where else we do it.
I was just going to ask the governance officer where it was advertised.
Website would have been on the website, and on the local newspaper as well.
Okay.
Can you speak up, please, Mark?
Yeah,
Sorry.
so the governance officer was just saying that for a public meeting like this, we typically put a notice in the newspaper. It's normally on our website and we post it on our social media. And typically if it's public notice, there'll be a notice up in the library as well, which will be a public notice space. But yeah, if you've got other ideas as to how we can promote these types of meetings, we're all for it.
Yeah, well, it's just that I did search for it, and all that I could find was a footnote down the bottom of the year's like calendar.
Yes.
And also on that, the 5:30 time, I'm not sure if that really suits a lot of people, especially shift workers. So
yeah,
it'd be good if that could be addressed.
Yeah. It just happens that tonight's our public briefing as well, so got a couple of meetings on, but yeah. But no, take note of that. There are a lot of people that don't finish work until 6. All right, any other public questions? No? All right, so now we'll move into the movement of the motions that people have brought forward. So I presume we have them in some sort of order available.
I hope that our colleagues over there are doing something. Yeah.
Scroll up the top.
Of course they're doing something. Hope that we've got an idea.
Just stuff on the better questions.
Yeah, with the Simon's emotions.
Simon's, yeah.
Simon's motion, yeah.
So Simon, did you wanted to put, I think we started as a statement, but did you want to actually make that a motion that gets voted on by the community?
Yeah, so is it best if Simon, if you stand up again and just remind people of what?
So let's say, have we got it up there?
Yep, it's on the screen.
Oh, what screen?
Yeah, or do you want me to read
This one?
Yeah, let's read.
This one.
Here in a second, we'll just try and get it in front of the mayor and I, so we can see it. We're kind of both trying to look this throughout more than pack them out.
I can see it.
That's
Okay. So I guess I'll start. So Simon has a.
Yeah.
Okay. So Simon, your motion is that you would like to request council to recognise the jump has been closed for 2 years of no progress. Note the construction of the access road was expected to start in May 2024 and no update in progress. And that we as a council should formally request the DBCA immediately reopen access to the bay, to the road, to Consing Bay via existing route or via alternate solution. There's been no visual. Okay. All right. So you're basically asking us to formally request the DBCA that we reopen access to Consing Bay via an alternate solution until such time as they have done their part.
So all the preparations, everything's ready and to actually start doing development.
So
okay.
I need you guys to actually prepare that as a resolution that we can put on the screen and that the community can read and vote on. So at the moment it's not prepared as a resolution. Can we, as the mayor's just mentioned, can we put something like that up on the board? Or if you need me to do it, I'll do it from my laptop. So the actual resolution
is going to
is like so where it's got council to formally request. So I'm going from like that third sentence. DBCA immediately reopen access to Consing Bay by existing road or alternate route.
Yeah.
And RG
So to formally request DBCA and MAC. And MAC, yeah. So if we can add after request, after DBCA put and Murrujuga Aboriginal Corporation. Yep. Aboriginal Corporation. I know. It's just like people, amazing people like over on my left here. Type it out. All happens. Okay. How does that sound like for a resolution for you, Simon?
Yeah. And such time as development is actually
ready.
Until
such time as
they are ready to start development.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Great.
Okay. So does everyone understand, Simon?
If I may add to that, that they provide feedback on progress to the community.
Okay.
Where they generally didn't have at that start.
And they provide feedback on the progress to the community.
Yeah.
As that sounds.
Yeah.
So just before we proceed, just let you all know that these motions, what happens, right, is they get voted up, and it comes to the administration to do a report, and then the report gets up to council to debate and endorse. Okay, so the resolution is there. So I will need someone to move it. I presume, Simon, you are moving this motion. Someone who would like to second the motion? Robert? Yeah. Robert has seconded the motion. Is anyone against the motion that Simon has proposed? Gary Slee is against
one person.
the motion. Yeah. So what we do now is through our formal standing orders is we're asking now Simon to speak for the motion as to why you would like this to proceed.
Yep. As per my original statement, there have been examples of this type of development that have been stalled significantly at the moment, 12 years, still ongoing in other areas. It's a popular recreation area that has been very well maintained by those who were using it. It was not being disrespected from what I had observed. And so I feel that the right should be there for everybody to be able to enjoy the area recreationally until such time as they are actually ready to proceed with the development and going maintenance of the area.
Thank you. Gary, would you like to speak against the motion?
Yeah, the reason I sort of decline is that Northern in the park is a major rock art site, hasn't been researched much at all. And of course, we're seeing incremental damage happening to the other sites and back towards this way, so to speak. So I think it's inappropriate that we should open a jump at this point in time. There's been a history there, of course, for quite some time. There are people who want to use it. There are a lot of people go on boats up there. Originally, of course, but I think a lot of them do walk in there at the same time. So not totally shut to the public. You can walk in, necessarily, or use a boat. But I would hope they don't have unfair access up there at all. But it's a major rock art precinct, like I said. As you know, the Barwon Peninsula is probably one of the world's largest, most diverse rock art precincts in the world.
Thank you, Gary. Robert, would you like to speak for the motion?
Like Simon,
So I have to be.
yeah, no, that's all right. Like Simon said, it was originally quite a difficult place to get over. So there's only certain people that were getting out there, some who had recently moved up here when it was shut down. We got out there once. It was a beautiful place, and I understand it's a good area. So they're looking at developing it, opening it up for everyone to get out there. Not just those few that have been able to in the past. So everyone that I witnessed out there was taking it through and doing the right thing. But it's a beautiful place, and nice to be able to access them for living in the region.
Good. Simon, do you anything further to add? No.
Only in that, yes, I respect that there is a lot of significant rock art out there, but I'll also speak to the fact that most people were actually interested in going to beaches and were not really going looking or even interacting, I would say, actively with the rock art. I myself only know of one spot out there. There is rock art, but I haven't gone for it. I go to the beach and enjoy a bit of peace and quiet on a nice, actually sandy beach.
Yeah. All right. There's no one else. What we'll do now is we'll put to the vote. Now, you don't, as a public, you don't have to vote, but those who'd like to vote, the councillors around the table, this is not, we don't vote on this. This is not for us to vote, this is the public's motion and they vote on it. So could I have a hands of those who are for Simon's motion? Someone like to? Can they? I thought we couldn't. Oh, I've just been corrected. Councillors can vote as well as electors. I thought it was just the public.
You sure? There's the information I got.
You should be able to. You're an elector.
Because we're not even supposed to, technically don't even have to be here for this meeting.
So I'm elected.
As the chair, I'm going to abstain from being involved in anything. 14-4, and those against? 2, 3, 4.
Myself also, please.
Or 5. 5 against. Okay, well, Simon's motion is passed. So our report will be done up to council, and we'll consider it in due course.
Okay. Can we just clarify that it won't be at next week's council meeting?
Yeah, no, it's yeah, we're only a week away from the next council meeting. The agenda has already been publicised. We will not be getting back to you in a week. And thanks to that, Councillor Lunn. Letting people know expectations is a good thing. Okay, so then we'll move on to the next motion, which is Roberts. Right.
I'm just waiting for this one. Oh yeah, sorry. So we've got Robert was talking about the waiver of fees in community facilities.
Yeah.
So the team's writing this up for you, Robert. So just make sure we've captured what you want. So we've got council approves a waiver of high fees for eligible NFPs, which is not profits, sole traders and small businesses for the use of council facilities when running events for community benefit. Would that be a way to describe what you were saying?
Absolutely, yeah. Just community events for, whatever the
for running community events.
Yep. Questions as well.
Yeah, please. Yeah, while we're crafting the resolution, are these for free events for the community?
Well, like obviously some events free, obviously, but there is other ones that are like run by small businesses that aren't running to make money. They're running at a minimum cost, literally just to cover cost of, putting it on for the community. So they're obviously all based around wellness and health and all the rest. So just anything that's a community benefit really for the small business and stuff. They're not out there to make big money out of these events. Like, someone wants to hire us for a festival on, absolutely, but for something that's just a small event that a small business might be putting on for the community. But yeah, it's not really from the ones that I've been a part of, aren't about making money. They're literally in the same spot just to cover it. It's all about backing out there in the community.
So would this potentially be better off saying, looking at a waiver framework? Because if you do say, for all small businesses, sole traders and non-for-profits waiving the higher fees, that's a pretty big statement to.
Don't we already pay council rates? Aren't you double dipping?
Sorry?
Aren't double dipping?
Not if then a small business is also making a profit off of an event. So,
A lot of them aren't.
but that's what I'm saying. So if there was a framework around it, which was to say that you're not profiting from this, or even if it was like I just said before, a framework where it might be your profits under 10%, or your profit is something that's a little bit that's very open to abusing the system, and I would hate to see our city of Karratha become a non-financial local government when we've worked very, very hard to have it as it is and to be able to offer what we do already to the community as a ratepayer, obviously.
Jody, your question?
I just really wanted to really clarify the event. I think we have some amazing NFPs that run really great events every weekend for our junior sport, and I just want to make sure that we're not. I love for junior sport to have free facilities, but I just want to be clear of what we're actually implementing.
I guess, Greg, have you got a question? Greg, have you got a question of Robert?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, what I was going to suggest, I agree with the view that's been Greg Neal, Fix Creek. I agree with the concern that's been expressed by the councillor. I do think what we need to do is, that's too open for me. It's just, it's not clear enough. And I would suggest that everybody agrees that that's it, but where it starts and where it finishes is very difficult. So I wonder whether the mover would accept some amendment to that and calls on the council to draft a procedure and recognise, they can put anything you like after that to recognise who it should be made available.
Well, I guess.
Well, it makes sense.
Yeah, due to this, because it's going to come to, the motion is the motion, right? It'll come to the officers regardless to provide comment, look into what is trying to be achieved, and then provide a report to us with their recommendation. So all of those things will be fleshed out anyway. And then just clarify me on this one, CEO, as we're doing that, is the mover of the motion a part of that?
Not necessarily. So we'll take what's on paper as the resolution of the community, and then we'll effectively be then use that to form a report. So I think
you get points of order, please, please. About to get one. What happens is that the motion is a reflection of the view.
Yeah,
correct.
And whilst what you say is good, what I am seeking to do, reflecting the view of the community, is to put a limit on what that means. That was what I was doing. I suggested that we can add on some words that say calls on the council to the parameters around.
Yeah, I understand.
That's what I want that with.
Yeah,
so it's
I understand that, Greg.
But
what we've got to do, right? If we're going to do this with the proper procedural meetings, right? We're going to have Robert move the motion. We're going to have someone vote, for it and second it to get it on the table. And if there's anyone that wants to make an amendment to the motion, then they can put their hand up and say, I want to make an amendment to this motion. And then what we do is then we have that debate on the amended motion. If the amended motion gets up, well then that's that.
look at you go.
Been doing this for a little while.
Everyone.
I'll just ask, Rob, I don't know if you can explain a bit about what you do and why you bought this, so just in regards to what you do as a business.
Yes.
Maybe that'll give us a bit more perspective about
no
why.
So we own a yoga studio in town, the wellness business. So we've hired Dampier Oval a few times, Dampier Hall and stuff like that, but had difficulties hiring the grass areas. So we've tried to put on free events for the community, which have cost us money and cost, we have dollars ice and everything else. We got lucky once, and the guy just supplied the ice the first ones, which was great. But we're trying to put on stuff that's all around mental health, well-being, physical health, all that sort of stuff, and being charged at the same rate as what Woodside Rio would be if they're hiring because that was actually what I was told on the phone was, Woodside would pay for it. So it's wonderful to put us up against Woodside, but we're not quite there yet. And we're lucky if we break even every month. We do what we do because we're trying to just be a part of the community and share as much as we can. So we're just trying to make it a little more fair for us and everyone out there to be a part of what we're sharing. So that's us personally. I can't speak of other businesses and whatever else that would take benefit from this as well. But there's obviously other people out there who are not jumping forward because of the cost of what it is trying to run these events that really don't have any cost like the other ones that we charge $15 and that was just to try and cover the cost of the ice. It wasn't for making profit, it was just about bringing the community together. So that's what we're trying to do. And I've run sporting clubs, this could benefit sporting clubs and everything as well. So I've run them in Perth with different councils, and obviously in Perth it's different because there's so many different councils and the kids might be from a different area. And the rule was if we had 50% of the club was from the council we were using the oval, we got it for free. So with that, obviously we're all within this council, we're all ratepayers and we're all business with ratepayers as well. And as well as everyone in the community. So we're just trying to use these oval spaces and community halls for, events that are just helping the community. So,
all right. Okay, well, we have Robert's motion. And as it's written at the moment, Robert, is that council approve a waiver of high fees of eligible NFPs, sole traders and small businesses, for the use of council facilities when running events for community benefit. So could I have someone move that motion? I presume Robert will. Does anyone second the motion of Robert's? Name?
Harley.
Harley? Is that what we need?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's fine.
Harley, you put your name down on that thing. Yep.
Yep. Is there anyone against the motion?
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
Gary. Now, Greg, this is your time. Do you have an amendment?
I would like to move an amendment to the motion. I have to think on my head. Can you
Make it bigger.
just have a look?
it does say for regular eligible. So obviously that would come into whatever, wherever you guys
Yeah,
call that.
Should we just have a look?
It should be on the screen here as well.
Yeah, it's just need to.
Yeah. I forget that.
Yeah.
And community benefit and call on the council to, and I would amend by following after the word benefit and calls on the council with draft procedure that identifies what are they going to just give me the word.
Or define, council to define eligibility for
Yeah.
the waiver.
If they call something that calls on council draft procedure that identifies the eligibility
And
for the waiver of fees.
and did you want to put like I think eligibility from the perspective of driving community wellness outcomes or something? Because I think that was.
Well, I think you guys
I might be going. Am I getting a little bit too? Getting a bit too fancy now.
I think we all agree. I think we all agree with the concept that Robert's put, and we just need to tighten it up a little bit to make sure that it's not an open recommendation from us.
Administration would suggest if we make it a policy rather than procedure, just you talking our language, that then makes it something that council signs off on. And then that can be approved by council, modified by council. It becomes an instrument of council. So we would suggest changing procedure to policy. Yeah. All right.
I'll second. Then identifies
eligibility.
Yeah. So we've got move.
Yeah. Okay. So
Kieran,
yes,
Kieran second.
I'm just waiting for all the words.
Can we get your name again, please?
Yes, I've never heard of it, Kieran.
that identifies appropriate eligibility.
Yeah.
Appropriate between identifiers.
Appropriate eligibility, and then full stop after
That's it,
eligibility.
yeah, that's it. Yeah. Okay. Can I have a mover? That motion is Greg
Of the
of the amended. Greg seconded by Kieran. Is anyone against this amended motion?
Yeah, I was against it a while ago and I haven't been able to talk.
We were against the first one, but because an amendment was made, we have to move forward with the amended motion first. So we have a mover and a seconder of the amended motion. Do we have anyone against the amended motion?
No.
Gary's against the amended motion. Okay. Greg, would you like to speak for the motion?
Well, I think we've done that. I just moved the amendment so that it makes the policy not as open-ended and provides some scrutiny service.
Yeah. Gary.
Yeah, right. It's pretty simple, this one. It says here, small business for use of council facility. Okay, if you're a small business, you've got to have an ABN number. Okay, so how are we going to define when we're running event for community benefit? How are you going to stipulate that? Are you going to present all your P&Ls and your everything to it?
Look like everything we do is for the community.
Hang on, didn't answer my question. I'm asking you.
Well, this isn't Gary. This isn't. We can't ask questions of Robert. Roberts has moved us. So you can tell us why you're voting against it,
Well, that is why, because we need to identify where the money is going from when running events for community benefit. Like, it's totally different from non-for-profit. And half the trouble here, non-for-profit, and I can tell you now, there's not many clubs that are even registered correctly for non-for-profit, because you've got to have a registration. Right, so what do you want me to say now?
No, that's it. You've spoken against it. I think everyone understands, I hope, what Gary said. Kieran, would you like to speak for it?
Yeah. So my reasons for the amendment over the first motion was pretty much actually supporting a similar position to Gary, is to make sure there's criteria so we don't create an unlevel playing field for many of our small businesses who are doing it for profit. And when I mean for profit, they have to cover their own wages and salaries, etc. So I would imagine, in my case, by putting the eligibility criteria, so there's someone donating their time and they just need some ice, for instance, I don't have a problem with that. But if they were charging $2,000 a day for their labour, I may have a problem with that. So in honesty, that's why I moved the amendment, Barry, is because I want to protect our local businesses as well as support small, I suppose, events which are purely in the public interest. And that's a really hard thing to describe, so good luck for council. That one out. So I don't think it's over.
Okay, with that being said then, we'll probably put
back to the substantive, I think.
Well, you're good. This is the substantive now. This is now the substantive motion. So there's a vote on this motion. So those for the amended motion, we get a count.
Now what's the same count?
$21.
21 for.
Councillor Lewis.
And Sarah. Oh, she's a hand up. Yeah, thanks, Sarah.
So we're 22 for. Those against the motion.
Yep.
One against the motion.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that motion has carried. And then now the previous substantive. This is where I always get it wrong.
Well, I think.
That's it. No, that's
Yeah, no, we're there. We're done.
Yeah, we're done. We're done.
Okay.
Okay. Well done, everyone. So that's the procedural motions of voting on a motion.
So I think we had Natasha.
All right. Next is
Previous business.
Yes. Okay, Natasha.
Now, Natasha actually had a well-structured set of recommendations which has been provided.
This is the landscaping.
It's the protection of subcontractors. Perhaps what I could do, if everyone recalls Natasha's comments, I might just also provide you with an officer comment in response. Because I'm very aware of this situation. So we had a large contractor, we required a large contractor to use local subcontractors. And they did that. They got to a point where the large contractor is required to provide us with regular statements each time they get a payment made by the city. They have to provide a stat deck to say that they are up to date on their subcontract payments. That occurred, and but what we found was there was a period of time there, sort of in October to December of last year, where payments weren't made. We withheld any payments to the contractor when at that time. So at each step, we were advised that the subcontractors had been paid at our milestones. And then in the October to December, when things actually went pear-shaped, we withheld our payments. And then we went through a process of actually working with both the contractor and the subcontractors to basically. So we became aware of the issue in December. Council has subsequently made some I can't go into too much detail because of the confidential nature and contracts and things like that. But we have actually advocated on behalf of the subcontractors, and I absolutely understand how much pressure this has put your business under, and I would be expecting that that the remedies that we've negotiated should be flowing through to you within days, because I saw something come across my desk today. So I suppose what I can say is, from a city perspective, we became aware in December, and then by March we've actually made remedies, and all of the local contractors will be have their payments addressed. And we've done that within a way that also meets the requirements of the Local Government Act and the various legislative requirements that we have to meet. So it's been a bit of a complex process. So I'm trying to paint the picture, but without going into compromising confidential information. But so my view, Natasha, is I 100% support your motion, and I also think that there are a number of things that we're doing at the moment that are actually ticking those boxes. I'm very sympathetic, and I'm absolutely committed from the city's point of view that we continue to tighten up and work on our processes, because our number one goal is to bring work to local businesses like yourselves. So that's actually what we want to achieve. So the fact that we had issues there at the tail end of that was absolutely not what we want to see happen. So I suppose what I would say as an officer, I would say I'm supportive of what the motion is suggesting.
Okay. So it's still time. There's just a few. Natasha's got a few recommendations here that we have to type out.
So we've got council implements payment protection framework. This should include requirement for principal contractors to provide proof of payment. So I mentioned we actually are requiring a stat debt at each of the milestone payments that we build in, right? So before we make a payment, they provide a stat debt to say, yes, I am up to date with all of my subcontractor payments. A structured reporting system where subcontractors flag non-payment issues. So happy to discuss how we can improve that, reporting things up through the channel if that's when that's necessary. Consideration of financial penalties or withholding funds. Well, we did actually withhold funds, and at the moment that we became aware, we withheld funds until such a time as the subcontractor payment issue been sorted. Review contractual obligations in city tenders, including clauses that mandate timely payments to subcontractors. Establishing clear escalation procedures for payment disputes. Very supportive of that. Commits to transparent communication with affected subcontractors. Providing regular updates on payment concerns. Yep. And ensuring that any issues with outstanding payments are addressed within a reasonable time frame.
That's it. Okay. So does everyone understand Natasha's motion she's put forward? Okay, so I need someone to move that motion. I presume. Natasha, would you like to move your motion?
Sure.
Someone to second the motion?
That's who have we got moving that, sorry? Was that Gary? Is
No.
Yeah. Gary.
Yeah, Gary. Is anyone against the motion?
Okay, amendment.
Oh, an amendment? Yes, please stand up.
Sorry.
Name?
Annabelle.
Annabelle, what amendment would you like to make?
I'd like to suggest that the city reserves the right as a head contractor to be able to pay their subcontractors direct, rather than have to pay for their contractor to make that payment.
As an additional recommendation in the resolution? Annabelle? as an additional. So you've got the three recommendations in the resolution. Are you saying to amend just to add an additional?
I'll see that as an additional or an.
Definitely would like to see it as an additional.
Okay, well, okay, so we've got an amendment to the motion.
Yeah.
And that is that the city reserves a right as a head contractor to pay their subcontractors direct instead of waiting for contractors
Waiting for the head contractor to make payments. Is that what we're
waiting for the head
thinking?
contractor to make payment.
Yeah.
Yeah, voice here front. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have someone move the amended motion? Annabelle, would you like to move the amended motion? Yes. Someone to second the amended motion? Simon got in first. Is anyone against the amended motion? Motion is passed.
And we go back to the substantive. Have we voted on the substantive?
You have voted on.
No,
We've just voted
we've just voted on the amendment.
The amendment became the substantive.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is it.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Moving on. Who's next?
So Natasha, just so you know,
Did you need
so
a
now
vote count on that one?
sorry.
Did you need a vote count on that one?
No, because there's no one against.
So Natasha, we'll take that on as a resolution, and now it'll go through the city's filter to kind of work out what's possible and what's not possible, and we bring that back to council. So there's another piece of work there, but absolutely hear your concerns, and you've got the vote of the room behind you in terms of your pain and us making sure we remain focused on supporting smaller businesses in these processes. So thank you for bringing that along.
Time?
Of course, yeah.
Something as simple as phone call to contractors would have just solved all of this problem at the point of static starting. Whenever we're contracted to state governments or anything like that, they always run and ensure that we have enough.
Yeah, okay.
So just something that simple.
Thanks, Natasha.
Okay, who got next? Tim?
You missed Gary. This was a question, I think. This is just a comparative.
Marcia. She was above Tim.
Yeah,
Who's
I
that?
think we're working on hers.
Marcia's.
Yeah, they're just it's rolled down the page. But this is Marcia's that they're typing in now.
Oh.
Maybe, Mayor, just while they're typing that, could I provide an answer to the question on salaries and FTE?
Yeah, if you had the answer.
I don't have the specifics, but so I just want to lap back. There was a question, it came through in statements and we sort of moved on, but there was a question around staff numbers, salaries, and how that's sort of been tracking over the last couple of years. So I'll provide a detailed response. I'll pull out all those figures and I'll make sure that that's all in the written response, so you'll be able to see that. I do want to actually just mention that when I arrived a couple of years ago, I really formed the opinion fairly quickly, and I've worked in some fairly big businesses, and I've also worked in organisational restructuring for many years. I actually formed the view for probably the first time in my career that we were a bit understaffed in some areas, and the way that I formed that view was that there were a lot of areas where things weren't happening quickly enough. If one person wasn't there, everything ground to a halt. The feedback that I'd get if I asked for something additional to happen. So it wasn't just even a cultural issue or people kind of not wanting to do things. It was that they couldn't do things. And then what I did was I've gone through the process of benchmarking how many people we have in certain processes compared to other regional capital local governments. So, for example, in our number of people that we have running governance processes and procurement was probably 1/5 of what the City of Geraldton has. But when you look at the amount of money and the number of tenders that we're doing, we were well outstripping them. So there was actually evidence on a data side to support some of my gut impressions, and then we benchmark that against other councils. So there are some areas where we have added in new headcount, but where I've done that, we've tied that to performance metrics. So I actually need to see that team deliver particular outcomes at this level now that they've got the right level of services. So there is a lot of, and the other thing that we're doing is looking at, we're monitoring that very closely. And I'm very conscious that staffing and salaries is an expense to ratepayers. So we absolutely have to stay very close to that and make sure that we are not overloading. But there are some areas there where I've gone, I think we might need additional staff for a short period of time, but I've bring people in on like a 2 or 3 year contract so that we staff up to get a project done and then we bring it back down again when the project's finished. So I'll write all of that up, but I just wanted to give a bit of an explanation to say, yes, the numbers have gone up. Some of those areas, I think it's because we've historically been too low for the type of work and the nature of the work. In other areas, it's because there's a project that I want delivered, and then once that project's delivered, we'll scale it back down again. So there's a mixture of drivers there. And ultimately, we look at what's the ratio of sort of residents to FTE, revenue and expenditure and capital works to FTE, and we look at all of those metrics to make sure that we're getting the sizing of the organisation right. So I'll provide all that to Gary. All of it's, I'm happy to be really transparent, but you will see that it's gone up. Yeah, I've been in businesses where I'm normally the head. I'm normally cutting heads. So for me, it's been a bit unusual to be on the other side of the process where I'm going, I actually think we need to add in more capacity so we're delivering the right level of service for the community. So, yeah. All right.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
No, thank you, because it gave us time to type up the next.
Well, it's one of those ones where, it's a sensitive one because we always want to make sure that we are not spending money just for money's sake, and that we're also focused on expenses that ratepayers are carrying. So very conscious of that. All right, how are we going?
All right, we're at, so we got Tim.
I think it was Marcia.
Oh, Marcia.
Marcia.
Yep. Okay, Marcia's. So is that one?
That's that one. Yep.
All right, so we got Marcia's motion, which is on the screen there, that we reaffirm community support for advocating the Royal Commission as demonstrated by survey results, right to federal MPs, advising them of the community's views and reiterating that the people of Karratha want transparency in the COVID-19 response, recognise the role of government advocacy in ensuring national inquiries are held, citing the Royal Commission Child Sex Abuse as an example of where council advocacy made a real difference. And 4, acknowledge that councils have historically advocated for Royal Commissions on major issues, and that stepping away from this responsibility would go against both community expectations and past practice. So, Marcia, where are you? Marcia, would you like to move this motion?
Yeah, I will.
Someone like to second Marcia's motion? Simon? Is someone against this motion? Catherine? We only need to name one person to start off with, don't we? Yeah. Catherine, you had your hand up first. Okay.
For and against.
Tim. No, Marcia, sorry. Would you like to speak for?
Yeah, I just think it's important because, yeah, the majority of the people that were surveyed said that they want you guys to answer their comments. Yeah, the amount of money that was spent on that survey is far greater than the letters that we want you to send, what it would cost to do that. So, yeah, I think there's a lot that still needs to be opened up, and it's currently, as it stands, there's 9 councils that have actually joined the ranks in sending those letters. So we would like you to be 10. So that would be, yeah, it's just great because that's what the people want. That's what we pay you guys to do.
Marcia. Catherine, would you like to speak against the motion?
Yeah, I just feel that this is something that garnered a lot of energy last year. I feel like it came to conclusion. And I really don't think that there's a huge amount of benefit in reopening it and revisiting it and sucking up more energy and probably more money. It's just that's how it feels, but it's done. It's time to move on.
Thank you, Catherine. Simon, you'll have to speak for it. Okay. Well, with that being said, we'll put it to the vote.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is that 9 WA councils or is that 9 in the whole of Australia?
9 in the country, is that right, Marcia?
Yes, that's fine in the country. But they're in Australia, they are still putting it to their agenda. So yeah, we know that. They haven't, like all of the councils haven't voted on it and said no, and only 9 have said yes. There are still other councils putting it on their agenda. So,
Do we know how many like have put it to their council or will be in future? Like it's 9 out of 550 is.
Yeah, they all will be, because it started with the Positive Language Council and they presented a whole heap of international data, which is what has kick-started this whole big thing. So a whole heap of international studies that have been brought to light that a lot of people don't know about. That has been replicated in other countries as well that people don't know about. So Port Hedland has kick-started it and that's what's carried it on. So
Thank you, Marcia. That saves me from going back to you to speak for the motion again.
Sorry, can we speak against the motion or?
Yes, if there's another person to speak against the motion.
Kieran, make the list. Look, my concerns about this motion probably are many, but one of the issues is the language used in the motion. I feel it's inappropriate. There's some statements made which haven't necessarily been backed up, but also talking for instance, talking about the people of Karratha wanting something, undertaking a voluntary survey is not indicative of community intent. So I personally object to saying that's my thinking, if I can put it that way. So a lot of the wording in this motion, I don't think reflects necessarily how the community behaving. So.
May I ask sorry. Will you finish? Sorry.
All right.
I just want to echo Kieran's statement. I'm not sure if the people of Karratha, the results of the survey is indicative of the whole of Karratha, unless every resident was surveyed individually. So for that statement, people of Karratha would be.
Okay. Well, with those speaking for and against, we'll now push to the vote.
This is where it needs to be really clear that the phone survey was 402 random selection. So it wasn't voluntary. The 402 calls was random selection. And that's the results.
For the motion?
That 402 and 4,000. I just want to get some.
There's been surveys that have been done. Less people and it's
say voluntary.
Everyone, we're gonna stick to the procedural motions of how we're going to do it. So we've had for, we've had against. Now we're going to put it to the vote. So I want you to put your hands up, those who are for the motion. We get a count.
we also had 2 members that were here that registered to be here and they put it in writing that they were for the motion. Does that count?
No, it doesn't. For those against the motion.
Yeah,
Councillors can-
councillors can vote.
Councillors can, if they want to, yeah.
Staff can as well.
If they're elected.
Yes, sir.
For that.
for 13.
12 to
Yes.
13. Right, so that motion has been lost. Right, we move on to the next motion, which is now 10.
Similar content, similar themes, but Tim had a different
approach.
We had some different things he was concerned about.
So Tim, your motion is that the City of Karratha Council formally acknowledge community concerns regarding the handling of the community survey and the decisions that followed. Provide a detailed explanation regarding how its actions align with the stated goal of rebuilding trust in government. 3, publicly define and disclose the city's advocacy priorities and confirm whether public health is included. 4, address potential conflicts between the alternate motion and the Local Government Act of 1995 and commit to reviewing any restrictive policies that may undermine the democratic representation. And 5, justify the decision to ignore the results of the $30,000 survey and explain how future community engagement efforts will be taken seriously. And 6, provide clarity and legal justification for the position that local government advocacy in this area is outside the scope of its responsibilities under the Local Government Act of 1995. So, Tim, I presume you'd like to move this motion?
Yep.
Someone like to second Tim's motion? Name and suburb?
Phil.
I know you, Phil.
Phil Karratha Station.
Karratha Station, Phil Karratha Station. Anyone against the motion? Kieran? Gary? All right, Tim, do you want to speak for the motion?
Yeah, sure. What is the cost of advocacy? You know, all that there is, you know, we're handing letters to MPs of state government, so it won't suck up time and funds. The survey result, as was mentioned back here, was randomly selected. So while there may have only been the order of 400, this is just the phone survey. It is a reflection of the community at large because it was a random selection. So to suggest that the numbers aren't enough for a good representation is fallacious and incorrect. And then we also have the written surveys as well as any online surveys. Every question put forward, every form in which it was asked and submitted all showed the majority. It's logical and reasonable to expect our representative council to represent us, especially when you lot suspended the motion in order to engage in a contractor to conduct the survey, but then to dismiss it, to dismiss that data, that is that really begs belief as to why many voted the way they did. And it is still, the effects are still being felt by the community. It is still on the hearts and minds and in the banks and welfare of people in the community. So we haven't moved forward. I don't think the community will move forward until it is properly addressed. And what we're asking is really not a big ask for the council. It's merely you to do your job in communicating from the ground roots up to state government.
Thank you, Tim. Kieran, I'll speak against the motion.
So Kieran Dart, Ocean West. My reason for speaking against this motion is that the way that it is worded is hang on, I've lost the part. It's using quite emotive language, like ignores. I don't believe the city ignored the results of the survey. I think they considered it, as our council should do. So as a general comment, I'm not particularly happy with how this motion, for whatever its intent is constructed and reflects well on the city or the electors. So from my perspective, I don't understand quite where some of this piece is going, especially point 6 on talking about legal positions. I'm not quite sure why we want to get in a tick for tat around some of these issues. We have an elected council. They act on behalf of the councillors to the best intent, and the city, through the CEO, acts in their best intent as well in the advice that they provide the council. So to me, we have an election. We have elected councillors. Their decisions, you could call it political, that you vote for them. And I believe the city and the councillors have answered for their purpose at the moment.
Thank you, Kieran. Phil, would you like to speak for the motion? You don't have to, no. Gary, would you like to speak for this motion?
Kieran's covered pretty well.
Yep. Greg, are you speaking against the motion?
I'm a bit confused from what Tim said, because I got the indication that he was indicating that motions there wasn't done.
That was the previous one.
That was the previous motion. So the motion to send correspondence was defeated. So this motion, as I understand it, is about being unhappy with the way in which the survey. That's what the motion, not the subject. Well, that's what it is. So this motion is about the way in which the council has addressed the survey. And I think it's very important to understand that the councillors that are elected are responsible for the decisions that they make. When they go out and survey, there's no obligation that councillors have to vote the way in which the survey comes back. They are properly entitled to make a decision based upon how they see the issue. They are not forced to go along with what the survey's result was. You asked me, it was unwise to go and do it. I know that you say there weren't very many people involved, but it is a reasonable thing. If I was a councillor, I am not going to accept the results of the survey of 14,000 voters that 400 people supported. I would say, okay, well, I hear what they say, but I have a responsibility to make a decision. So I don't believe that this motion should be supported. I think the councillors are entitled to make a decision as they see it.
Yeah, Greg, another speaker for the motion?
Against? Oh, false, sorry.
I presume so, Stacey.
What is the point of any survey then if it is taken under guidance and read between the lines, whatever the councillors want to read between? Considerable money goes into every survey, and there is probably several open at this very moment. East saying there was only 400, so many people surveyed out of 15,000 people. I know that there are other surveys that were passed with considerably less people surveyed. So I'm asking, what's the point of any survey there and wasting money?
You might sort of give our jobs.
Catherine, would you like to speak?
Speaking against, I would like to, I guess, raise the point that the survey is not the only method that councillors receive information. I know I had conversations around my views on this with multiple councillors. So I know that we're focusing a lot on the survey results and what they may have reflected. I'd just like to highlight that that's not the only information gathering that goes on in councillors developing their decision.
Okay, with that being said, with our for and against, I'll put it to the vote. So those for this motion, please raise your hands. Yeah. Well, those against the motion, please raise your hands.
Sarah's online.
16. I've got a 14, but I'll give someone.
Oh,
I can't see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Roots, yes, got you. All right, that's 15 against the motion, so the motion has not passed. All right. Next motion.
Statements.
Are we going to have any other motions?
Do we have any other motions?
I think Tim, you had two, didn't you?
We've got Grace.
Grace.
Grace A and vote. I wasn't taking those as motions because they're
One was stated as a motion.
I think they wanted Grace's motion.
So it's Grace. So Grace's a motion.
So what we're debating, we had three very articulate and very smart young women who came forward. As young people, they can make a statement, but they can't put a motion because they're not an elector. So what they would need is an elector to pick up the idea and put a motion forward on their behalf is what to progress that. So at the moment we've got a statement. If we want to turn it into action that's voted on, it would need and someone to pick that up and put it forward. So the first, I'll just to close this out, make sure we're all comfortable. I think Grace talked about a 24/7 public library. Ava talked about water park facilities would be absolutely brilliant, and Hope talked about improving our amenity around bus stops and making sure that they have the right facilities and in the right location. So they were the three statements. I hope I've summarised that well enough. So are there any adults that would be interested in moving a motion on any of those items? Yep.
Annabelle?
And I'd like to support Hope's proposal for a bus stop. But I'd also like to make an amendment to that. I'd like to suggest that not only seats but shelters are at every bus stop to keep the kids out of the sun. And I think that the comment that the kids have to pick up weeds is terrible. That perhaps the service level around those bus stops should be increased so that they're not at risk of standing on the road.
I'm sorry, Elmstead, did you advise?
I'm just suggesting we go by in line, that's all, but that's all right.
Oh, it just takes up.
Sorry, can I add one other thing?
Oh, is there another motion? Is there?
No.
Sorry,
I have a time frame to that it's completed before the start of next summer.
That's probably impossible, but love your optimism. Happy for you to put it there and then you can see what's possible. So if we can just confirm that the motion that's been put by Annabelle is that council installs seats and shelters at bus stops, as well as maintaining the weeding and upkeep around bus stops. Does that sound okay? Something like that.
Okay. So does everyone understand?
Sorry. Oh yeah, sorry. There was a time frame. Happy to take the and that these installations are completed before next summer. How's that?
Okay.
Definitely the city, all towns.
Yes.
Oh, it's the city, yes. So, yep. Councillor Nunn's going, don't forget about other parts of the city, not just Karratha.
Okay, so everyone understands the intent of this motion? So could I have someone move the motion? Annabelle? Move. Someone to second the motion? So Stacey?
Kim.
Kim?
Simpson.
Kim? Anyone against the motion? Well, that motion has passed.
Yep, well done. Okay, all right. Is there any other, I've mentioned a couple of motions. Were there any other motions anyone wanted to move?
Not from the one side of the top.
Yeah.
I'll support the trial of the library.
A 24/7 library trial?
Yes.
Yep. Sounded like a nice idea.
Right.
So could we perhaps say that the motion is that council considers a pilot of opening the library 24/7 based on the example in New South Wales? How's that sound?
Was New South Wales?
Yeah, I think.
Forestfield.
No, I thought she said Forestfield, New South Wales. That's what I thought it was, but. Yeah.
Can I clarify library facility, considering we have four?
Could I say a library facility?
It's a pilot
Or
child.
two?
A library facility.
Three in two.
I'm going to say, let's change it to one or more libraries.
I was going to say, what, even if you trialled eastern, outlying towns on Sunday?
Yeah.
Yes, on Sundays, yeah.
All right.
Just keep it.
Okay. So does that pick up the example, Simon? You happy with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over to you, Matt.
So everyone understands the intent of this motion? Simon, would you like to move the motion? Someone like to second this motion? Ken? Is anyone against the motion? No?
Careful what you wave at, Steve.
If no one is against the motion, then the motion has passed. Carried, passed.
Right, great.
Okay.
One part. Don't forget the one part.
Are you moving?
Well, there's another one. There's another motion there for a water park. Kim, would you like to move it? Let's go to the water park example.
That's for Ava.
So it's for Ava.
So the recommendation. How would you like that recommendation?
How would you like that?
The council, builds a water for the community of the city of Karratha. That includes water slides.
That's
Where?
all. That's all you
Matt, say, don't say by summer. Which summer?
Okay. Well, when the summer ends. Sure.
All right.
Virginia, can you also state that we have already done some work on water slides already?
Yeah, very good.
Tony,
So
Tony
maybe
might be able to pull out a couple of plans we've got.
just a very quick officer comment on that. Maybe I might just hand to the director, because we've done a lot of discussion with our community about what they'd like to see, and water parks absolutely comes up, and we're building like a 10-year plan of what are the things that we want to build and in what sequence and what can we afford and how do we build it into the budget. So I might just flip to you, Emma, if you've got any advice on that.
Well, I think you just explained it really well. So we did get a lot of feedback through our strategic community plan and also through our community infrastructure plan. Water play, water parks, etc. were rated very highly. We do have a proposal that we'll put forward to council for next financial year's budget to look at potentially progressing what was identified through a KLP improvement plan, a water slide. And that has been planned for a long time. But what we do know is that there are cost implications to that type of facility. So we'll also look at other options. It may not be a water park, but we can definitely start looking at water play features. We've got splash pads already, but
Needs to be something for older kids though.
intergenerational.
Yeah, like dads and.
Yeah.
Their dad was. Coolin's got one. Coolin's got one. Come on.
And they've got a really good story.
I know they do. Yeah, so let's get a good story to us.
Okay, so the motion is the council build. Are we building it? So the council build a water park for the community of the city of Karratha, including water slides.
Yep.
Kim, would you like to move that motion?
Yes, I would.
Someone like to second the motion? Robert? Is anyone against the motion? Robert Kitzer?
No.
All right, well, that motion has passed.
Yes, sir. Tony, can you get onto that for me?
Thanks very much.
My next slide.
Yeah. Yeah, our motions.
Is that all the motions?
Okay, that's what I've got.
Kim?
Okay, well, I think
Yeah, Kim. Add some.
just a question.
Questions.
Question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the one.
And so I've captured that and I'll provide more response on that.
Yeah, and I can hear these details.
And this is a space for further motions?
Yeah. So sorry, Tim?
Is this a space for further motions?
Yes, if there's another motion.
Yeah. Go for it, Tim.
So Tim, how many motions have you got?
Two remaining. I'll make it a lot quicker. And this one concerns the format of ordinary council meetings. And I wish to move a motion to include additional public question time. So amend the meeting format to allow for public questions following the discussion of each notice of motion, in addition to the existing public question time, which is at the beginning of the agenda, to permit public questions after council have debated on a motion, in particular when standing orders have been suspended for open discussion. And this is to ensure a structured process for follow-up questions from the public, reducing frustration and interjections while promoting orderly meetings and robust community engagement. Reasoning behind it, current agenda, that has question time at item 3 right at the start, and there's no further opportunity for public engagement later in the proceedings. This limits the public to be able to respond or seek further clarification on matters raised. And we saw that in December's council meetings. And without the opportunity to follow-up questions, frustrations may arise and interruptions may come from the public. Allowing post-debate public questions will enhance robust and transparent debate by allowing the public to engage directly with issues as they arise. I feel like I'm repeating myself. But basically, that is the spirit of my motion, is to allow for a space in the agenda where questions can be put to the public, open for the public.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Tim. Do we have any? Is there any? Are we even able to do that?
It's a good question. In the spirit of questions. So there's a few things that are running through my mind. The first is that one of the things we're doing to kind of open up that exchange between the public and council is to break the meeting cycle into two pieces. So we have what we call our public briefing in meeting 1, which is like tonight, and then next Monday we have the council meeting. What we're trying to do is actually to make that first meeting better at creating opportunities for council and the community to ask questions. So we actually want that to be a really rich question asking process and opportunity for questions, which I don't think we've nailed that yet. So there's part of my thinking, which is if we got that working better, a lot of the questions around items can be put and answered a lot more freely. When we then step into a formal council meeting, we've got a lot of structure around that's imposed on us by the Local Government Act, and then also the standing orders, which are also a law that we need to follow. I'm not suggesting that we can't do what you're suggesting, but it will be highly unusual in the local government context, because typically once you get to the OCM, that's actually the point where council is now in a debating environment, and they debate the item based on all of the information that's come before, and that's a decision-making forum. So in some way, that meeting is actually intended to be debate and decision, as opposed to another forum for community engagement, consultation and questioning. So I'm not trying to suppress people from asking questions, but it's kind of like there's a pathway of asking questions, interrogating the reports, understanding them, council getting the opportunity to really dive into it. And then by the time we get to the ICM, council should actually be starting to debate. And the reason that the format in all the councils that I've seen has the public questions at the front is it's one last opportunity for questions to be brought to the table for council to consider when they're in debate mode. But so look, I haven't really answered it, Tim, but I'm just kind of thinking on my feet a little bit about process, and there's a few things there, like technical things I need to have a look at.
And the number one way to get to ask questions is to put your hand up and run for local government. And then you can ask as many questions as you want. So with that information, Tim, you happy with the motion you've put forward
as it stands?
As it stands?
So next year. The two forums that you're speaking on, the question one, when do they occur?
So, well, it's funny you should ask that because tonight was actually meant to be a double barrel meeting where we started with the electors meeting and then moved into the public briefing. The public briefing meeting happens 1 week prior, exactly 1 week prior to the OCM, and it provides a lot more opportunity for public and council to ask questions more freely. And we're in the mode there where we're not making decisions, we're going, officers bring a report to the table. We're meant to be sort of the independent advisors. We write something up, we bring it along, and then that's where everyone can ask the questions and go, well, why did you do that? And why is it like this? And that's where council can say, we need more information on this, Virginia, or whatever it might be. So that's tonight, normally. And then next Monday is when we take all of that information and then we debate and make decisions.
Sorry, but it's always a week before the OC.
1 week before.
Yeah, right. I was unaware of them. Are they on the different calendar or are they under the council meetings timetable?
There should be on the council meeting documents, and also they are live streamed as well. Right. So you should be able to see that. And one of the things we were just going to try tonight, which we haven't got a chance to do, is that one of the things I've asked the staff to do is when we come along to the briefing is actually to do a really quick presentation of the report. So to kind of like go, hey, to people. So it's actually explained in real language and a little bit more user friendly than having a council report. And I've actually asked, so there's about 6 or 7 papers in the council meeting that staff who are sort of sitting in the room, we're going to come along and go, hey, look, this is the paper, this is why I've written it, these are some of the things we considered, and this is the recommendation. So we were trying to make it a little bit more accessible by doing that as well.
Okay, thank you. I've learned something.
No, it's all right. It's okay.
So yes, would you like to proceed?
Yes.
Is your motion? All right, so Tim's motion is that the electors city Karratha resolve to amend the format of ordinary council meetings as follows. 1, amend the meeting format to allow for public questions following discussion of each notice of motion, in addition to the existing public question time at the beginning of agenda. 2, permit public questions after council has debated the motion, particularly when standing orders have been suspended for open discussion. And 3, ensure a structured process for follow-up questions from the public, reducing frustration and interjections while promoting orderly meetings and robust community engagement. Tim, would you like to move this motion?
Yes.
Someone like to second Tim's motion? Natasha, yes. Natasha, anyone against the motion? Greg and Catherine. All right, Tim, would you like to add any more?
Well, this come about just from perhaps what you call maybe a gap in the system or whatever that I witnessed during the December council meeting. Debate raised more questions for myself and others, and there was no space for us to follow up with further clarification.
Okay, Greg, would you like to speak against?
Yeah, This is a really well-intentioned recipe for disaster. I'm sorry to say that, Tim, but what has happened is that there's been a decision that's been made at some stage that people are unhappy with. And so what we've done is we've gone off and tried to search for some process to do. But could you imagine a council meeting where we had a discussion and you made a decision, and then you opened it before you moved on to the next item on the agenda? You opened it. How many people would speak? 10? Everybody that came along was unhappy. When would the meeting finish? Council meeting that sits down and makes a decision has taken all of the preliminary advice that it needs to get itself in a position to make a decision. And it makes that decision. And once it's made the decision, nobody asks a question about it after that because it's been done. You can't speak to the councillors or to whoever after that has happened. But I can understand, I sympathise with Tim's views about the fact that there was something that happened, but they weren't happy. But somewhere along the line, all of the encouragement and that's follows the council sits down and makes its decisions. And that should be going forward, that flows and goes through the order of business and completes it some way opposed to the motion.
Greg, Natasha, would you like to speak for the motion?
I think that it's a good idea. And if you were to overcome the problem that was just mentioned, you could put time limits on questions. I think it's a good opportunity for people to be able to ask questions at the point that the information is being given. You don't know what the information is at the start of a meeting, and not everyone's going to be able to attend a public briefing. So I think it comes back to, it was brought up earlier about trusting government. I feel that governments, if they genuinely want to move forward and engage the trust of the voters and the people that put them into positions, they need to be working towards that. And I think that giving people the chance to ask questions and be involved in a meeting, and also chaired by a good chairperson, like you should be able to control meetings. It's just an excellent opportunity to gain more community engagement.
Sure. Catherine?
So Catherine from Mountain West was speaking against the motion. My understanding from the beginning of this meeting is that any motion that is passed then becomes a parcel of work that council have to investigate and report back on. Yeah. I think Virginia's comments have indicated that council have recognised that previous processes perhaps were not engaging enough, and you have worked to change that with the public briefings. And so I don't see value in asking council to investigate and report on something that you've already actioned.
Right. Is there anyone else that wants to speak for?
I'll speak in response to that.
You sure can.
I feel like maybe there's been a misunderstanding that I'm speaking to a specific motion, but this will apply to obviously all motions. And the motion here is not to raise questions after a decision's been made, but it's to clarify as discussion is taking place. I understand Greg. I understand Greg's concern about it stifling progress and taking up a lot of time, but for the sake of community satisfaction with government, I think it would be a good thing for further communication can only grow public's trust, and it may take a bit more time. But if you look at democracies versus dictatorships progress pretty quickly. If you look at China, that's because they don't have to vote in a new government. Discussing.
I was wondering where you're going with that. All right, so we've had the speakers for or against. We'll put it to the vote.
A little context on this one. The motion, it came about partly, like even as councillors.
There's no.
Once we go, either speak for or against.
Yeah, you got to speak for. Even as an elector,
for
you speak for.
Yeah, for it.
Yeah, so we've gone, so let's just clarify, we've had the mover move the motion to second, we've had the speaker against, and we've allowed the mover for the motion to have their final say. Rebuttal, therefore, the debate is done, and now we put it to the vote. So those who would like to, who are for the motion, please raise your hands.
Yes, it's done. We'll do the counting.
Sorry, just put right up. Last, please.
No, those against the motion.
Sorry, just to be there time through.
Kelly's hand is up. You can't see Kelly's. Councillor Nunn's hand is up as well.
Oh,
Sorry, Tony.
Take off your shoes and.
okay, good. We go. Well,
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
okay, the motion has been lost. But Tim, just let you know as well, and everyone here, that the agenda is published on our website before the public briefing session. So the information is available for anyone to look at. And if there's questions from that, then you come to the public briefing and ask those questions. So the agenda is available before the public briefing, and it's almost available as you guys have got access to the agenda at the same time we had access to the agenda. And that can be found on the city website.
Okay.
Okay.
One more last motion. You might be the lucky last.
yeah. I'll try and get around the board.
This way, with you there for everyone.
Okay, so improving public access to community survey results on the council website. When the council approves and funds a community survey, the motion is that they make the results easily accessible to the public by one, creating a dedicated page on the City of Karratha's website under the council section titled Community Surveys, and including in this page is two clear sections with thumbnails and links that look like the other ones do. One for surveys in progress and another for past survey results, ensuring survey results are not hidden away, embedded in minutes and attachments that are hard to find.
Can we just have a copy of that, please?
Oh. Who wants it?
Yeah, so I'll
Administration
provide I'll provide a little bit of an officer response. So I suppose the first thing is there's this in terms of community engagement and consultation, there's a spectrum of things that we use to consult on an issue. But we do use we do have an online portal. It's called What We Make It. And what we do is every time we set up some sort of survey or engagement process, we create a project, and each of those projects is available on that site. That site is clearly available from our website, and you can register in there as an elector or as anyone. And what you can do is you can follow a project, and when everything is updated, you'll get sent updates on it. You can follow. I think we're also going to expand it so you could like follow a suburb, or you could follow a town, or whatever it might be. So there's different things that you can kind of engage in, and you're right. Like whenever there is a survey like that, all the results are there, and not only that, my commitment is that it's there ongoing. It's there in perpetuity. So you can come back in 2 years' time and see how did we actually get to that decision, and you'll be able to see the project page, and you'll be able to see all the steps we went through, and you'll be able to see the survey, and you'll be able to see the results. you'll be able to see the reports, and it's all kind of assembled in one really nice sort of location. So that's our gold standard that we're sort of trying to build towards. The one sort of bit of feedback I've had from the community is that we ask people to register to enter into that. And I understand that some people feel a little bit like, I want to be involved in the survey anonymously. But one of the reasons we've actually put a registration process in is that we can, a little bit like we're doing here, people have to confirm that they're an elector of the district or that they're a local of the district. And then the second thing is it prevents us from getting spammed by robots and stuff like that. So as silly as that is, we actually do find that happens from time to time. You open up a survey and then it actually gets picked up by automated sort of processes and it gets spammed. So that's kind of our goal. I don't know, Emma, is there anything else you'd add to that? I'm sort of thinking about it. No.
Sorry, is that your goal or is that what's in place?
That's what's in place.
How do you navigate to that? Is it a separate?
It should be.
So this is. I'm happy to share the link in the webpage to it after this meeting if you like, but you can navigate to it from our main page. And every time we have some sort of engagement, there is usually a Facebook post, and that also links to the What We Make It page.
So what we make it is the place that we do all of our community engagement processes. So if we're doing a pop-up stall, it'll be in there. If you'll see, we'll basically set up a project for that topic, and then you'll see all the different things that we're doing, including reports and pop-up stalls and where they are and what they are and how you can log on to a survey. All of that will be on that project page. That exists, and we've sort of been doing it for about a year now, but it's now becoming part of our normal method of rolling out consultation with the community.
So to satisfy that motion, all that would have to be done is thumbnail and a link made that directs you to then the already existing.
And if that doesn't exist, I'm really happy to create that. I think that sounds like that might actually be a win for Tim tonight. Just saying.
So CEO, are you saying that we're on this journey, some things that we're doing?
Yeah.
And if we add a 0.4 to Tim's motion, that suggests that we have thumbnails and
a link off the city's website, landing page on its website.
Just when I was navigating it, find it, I went to the council page.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get to the portal or whatever they're talking about, but you've got all these other, things to click on. You just had one for community surveys.
Yeah.
And then that redirects you to what's already established.
Right.
Love that idea.
So establish a link from the city's website.
There is one right at the bottom, but I think the point is try and get it to the top.
Yeah. So I think it's actually a visible what was it? Tile. We're going to use the word tile. At the top of the website to help people find our community surveys. So how's that sound?
Okay. So does everyone understand Tim's intent on this motion? Okay, Tim, would you like to move this motion?
Yes.
I would like to second Tim's motion.
Let's
Greg.
Tim.
Is there anyone against this motion?
No.
Tim, your motion has okay, democracy.
Love
democracy
in action.
Okay, well, that concludes. Yes, Annabelle?
And I apologise, I'm very late to the party. I'm able to move the motion, please.
Oh, yes, Annabelle, what motion would you like to move?
That's what they call scooting in at
Can I just stand here? I would like to move a motion for council to undertake improved weed management practices throughout the city of Karratha. For sort of quick context, council issued weed management tender in 2016 and has been spraying the same chemical for 9 years in the same locations with no tangible improvements throughout this time. In addition to broad spectrum spraying, I'm aware council is now using residual chemicals such as Primac and Simzine. I am moving a motion for council to develop and adopt a chemical use policy focusing on integrated pest management that commits to the reduction of pesticide use, that will always use options such as cultural and biological controls prior to chemical use. I would like council to quantify their current annual usage and declare the exact chemicals they are using in public spaces and for those to be available online. I would like council to work with contractors in town who are spraying residential properties with Schedule 6 chemicals, which have a significant impact on our pollinators. I can give some more information if you want more detail. Council will also be responsible for weeds not only on their property, but those that have spread from their property to the surrounding UCLs.
Annabelle, are you able to bring yourself and your phone to Isabella here?
Yes.
So that we can scribe this motion, because she was frantically trying.
Sorry, Karen.
So if I could provide a officer comment just while we're doing that. So I'm going to paraphrase what I've heard. Weed management. The number of questions I get, the amount of feedback I get on weeds probably outstrips any other topic in council, right? So it's really, really important to the community. We hear that it's a really difficult situation. I just want to tell you, we spend, our team have an extraordinary amount of knowledge around weeds, chemicals, and one of the things we absolutely try to do is to understand and avoid the use of chemicals where we can, right? So we start from that premise, and local government as an industry actually has working groups on how to best manage weeds and what are the evolving technologies around the world, and because it is a constant complaint and a constant concern for the community. If we don't do weed management, we get a lot of complaints that the amenity of our local areas and our bus stops and people, becomes an issue. We have one major downfall like we did, and the complete biosphere changes, which doesn't, that's just one example, but we know that weed management is a ongoing and regular and year-round campaign to try and win. We absolutely, we have partnered with a Aboriginal organisation to work with them on their proprietary equipment to do steam management of weeds, and we're partnering with other Aboriginal organisations around more native practices around weed management. So I'm actually confident that I could write up a response to your motion that would probably, it could go to hundreds of pages of activities that the city's involved in to A, try and manage weeds, B, to try and reduce our chemical use, and C, to also, where we do feel like we need to use chemicals, to consider how we do that to minimise the impact on community, pollinators, native sort of ecosystems. That all of that goes into our thinking. 100% agree with the intent of your motion, 100% support what you are proposing. Our team actually come from that place too, but we also have as many people in the community wanting us to up our weed management, and it's about trying to find that balance. Like, I would love it if everyone said we're happy to actually accept all of the don't use any chemicals and don't do any weeding, and we'll redirect all of our efforts to other stuff. That's not what I'm hearing that the community wants. So then if the community wants a amenity that is weed free, we then work through hundreds of different strategies to try and work out how to do that. And it's also triaged around high use areas, areas where children are playing. How do we handle weed spraying so that our staff feel protected? How do we do weed spraying when there's wind happening? You know, like there are so many different processes and practices that the team put in place around weeds. So look, just want to say I acknowledge, I hear, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have a chemical-free environment? I don't think I could get you the weed amenity that. No, I know. Yeah, great. And so I know that the team actively think like that and work like that. I also know from time to time we have contractors who work under our instruction. I know that I've had members of the community ring me and go, hey, your contractor's doing this. I've rung up our team and gone, hey, I'm hearing from a community member that a contractor's doing this. We've had to go out and stop what they're doing. So we don't do things 100% right all the time either, right? So I'm sure you will find examples of where we've got a contractor who could have done it better or could have done it differently, where we could have done it better, could have done it differently. Absolutely. It's an ongoing process of learning, improving, training, working with Indigenous community, working with new suppliers around new ideas. So we're absolutely doing all of that.
Annabelle, you should see the Australian Capital Territory. They just let it go. You see our national rose garden. There's no roses, it's just weeds.
I took a photo of the National Rose Garden because it was full of weeds. I was like going, yes.
Yeah. All right, so we have Annabelle's. Yes.
I think that's supposed to say integrated weed management, not
Integrated
pest management.
Where?
Got one.
Oh,
Sorry.
Pest management.
Yeah.
Well, we
No,
next, that's enough.
So it was weed and pest.
Weed and pest.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, so we have Robert.
Just with property just getting managed, does that also go to the vacant plots that haven't been established within the community? We obviously in our area we have quite a number of vacant plots with just weeds crazy all over them. You know, they come and get slashed every now and then, but whether they're being controlled by the council as well, because that's, I know for having a house surrounded by empty block covered in them, it's just a nightmare for our yards to try and manage what we're doing on our properties. So
Yep. See, do you have a response to that?
Well, oh look, I think it's always going to be difficult when you're talking about private property, right? So I don't have an easy answer to that, and I also don't have an easy answer to contractors who are doing things in residential properties that are out of our sight. Like we then move into more of an education mode, and we kind of go, okay, look, this is what we recommend, but we're not really the regulator there. And, so, yeah, it's definitely not easy. I know neighbours who go out with their own whippersnippers and try and keep things down, around their properties and on neighbourhood properties. If it is becoming a nuisance and a fire hazard, then sometimes we can step in. So that's definitely something that you can contact us and let us know. Sometimes we can do things like that.
Okay, so we have Annabelle's motion. Everyone understand the intent of what Annabelle's trying to achieve? Annabelle, would you like to move the motion? Someone like to second Annabelle's motion? Simon? Is anyone against Annabelle's motion? Kieran? Annabelle, would you like to speak for the motion?
I shall.
Sure. City of Karratha has around 32 parks, over 15,000 square kilometres. It's a huge area for the Parks and Gardens team to manage. We need to be mindful that we are trying to work towards a healthier environment, that we want to use sustainable practices, and we want to make sure that our people who are using our public facilities and amenities are not impacted from a health perspective by using those chemicals. Hence the aim to reduce as much of those chemicals as we possibly can. and come up with better solutions for how we manage the weeds throughout the city.
Thank you, Andrew. Kieran, I'll speak against.
Yeah, Kieran Dart, sorry, not really chair. Thank you, toes out. Kieran Dart, Bain Moyes. Look, I have absolutely no issue with parts of this motion, motion in the first part. However, the way it's written, in addition to what the CEO has said with regards to point 3, what actually is the council's obligations with regards to residential properties, which was outside their remit, with my understanding. And with 4, I have a rather large issue as a ratepayer of the cost of the accountability or implied legal liability that may occur to take responsibility for something which isn't actually a legal. The council may not even be at fault for that under a legal term. So, just as a comment, I have rather large issues with the state government having unallocated crown land anywhere near a residential city. They are negligent in how they manage their unallocated crown land because they are not managing that crown land. The city has probably demonstrated on many occasions that they would take that land under management and allow their rangers to, say, clean up fish carcasses and everything else that occurs on allocated crown land, but that remains the state government accountability. So although I'm quite happy that we do weed management on UCL, as a ratepayer, I don't believe at the moment that is an accountability for ratepayers.
Kieran? So I'll get Simon to speak for it. Or we can.
As someone who I myself have spent quite a significant amount of time trying to eradicate calthrop in my own area, at my own expense. When I say my own area, I mean a very large local area of my immediate surroundings. I would say that the council's approach to it, we tend to be too slow to actually cut the stuff. So we're allowing it to seed and then we send the mower in and it spreads it everywhere. And I can tell you right now that the whole of Rosemary Road was calthrop free until they planted the trees. And then the contractors drove straight through all the calthrop and spread that throughout that whole area and it started all over again. So it's, yeah, I think there's definitely better approaches than what we are currently doing. Just by spot spraying alone, I use probably this much of a bottle of the glyphosate weed killer, and I can manage that entire street. So I think that we have better approaches than to just go out there and close everything and kill everything off.
Does anyone else want to speak against the motion? If not, Annabelle, you have your right of reply.
Simon, you said it perfectly. That's exactly right. Hence why the motion is better weed management practices and timing is one of them. That's one of the cultural practices that I've requested. Kieran, in response to yourself, I recognise that 3 is challenging. Virginia mentioned the same thing, working with external contractors on property that is not ours. You named it exactly. It's a education process, but not just for us contractors, for our residents as well. One of the biggest challenges that we have here is to treat Singapore ants. The chemicals that are used to treat Singapore ants, such as diphenthrin, have a huge impact on pollinators.
Yeah.
And that's the avenue that I'm going down, is to be able to try and make people aware, can they treat things in a different way? Again, is moving through the steps to be able to go, let's use the least impactful thing first, and then gradually work through those steps, and chemical may be the result at the end. So it's not necessarily something that I'm asking council to say, you need to do this. It's something where we say, can we put some education out there and work through that process? Point 4, you mentioned not only weeds on city's property, but on UCL. I understand where you're coming from, that UCL need to be responsible for their space. But if you use the down the salt flats as an example, everyone will see the big tall young trees that are there. They are weeds that have directly come from Catchment Park. It's council's responsibility to manage those before they spread to those areas. Likewise, if you have a look at the K-pop that's along the Dampier Highway that borders onto the hill, it's council's responsibility to manage that K-pop that gets onto the hill.
Thank you, Annabelle. Okay, the speakers for and against, we'll now put that to the vote. So those that are for the motion, Annabelle's motion, please raise your hands.
Last call.
Sure. It's not really necessary. Emmy, you're talking her into it, man. It's okay. It's all right.
Oh.
They come and go.
Sorry.
His arms are getting tired.
Yeah, it's okay. Just start that way.
All right, up again, Barry. Right, strong and proud. It's looking pretty strong.
Comes, is there going to be more than 18?
I know, so we had 18 as well. 18 against 18.
18 for, those against. There's
All right, it's always one.
There's always one, yeah. The motion has carried.
Yep. Thanks,
We
Annabelle.
will look into that, Annabelle. Okay. We've done statements, we've done questions, we've done notices of motions. So we'll finish here. All of those motions that were carried will now come to our officers, who will do their city response and provide information and feedback to us elected members, which will then make it to our agenda in the near future. And then we'll make a decision on it. So thank you for all of your attendance. I think we ought to give each other a pat in the back, because this is the first and only time I know of, and I've been here a while, that we've had anyone rock up to our annual electors meeting.
And I think it was a positive annual electors meeting. So thank you.
Well done. And I think we are on that path of continued community engagement and transparency. So thank you for your attendance. And I will now declare the meeting closed at 8:15 p.m.
Thank you. All right.
Now we're going to have a short break, and then we're going to make a decision as a group
What we're going to do around
what we're going to do about our public briefing. So we'll give it a 5-minute recess.